Night of the Living Geek.
No, this is awesome. Man, an entire podcast about JRPGs is heaven. I had a really good time.
Welcome to our new JRPG podcast called the Giant Sword Podcast.
LSG boys here with some new content.
Of course. And to my side are my noble and hairy are Taylor.
Good to be with you today, Nick.
Connor.
Hail, hero.
Yes. And joining us today is a very special guest who I'm hoping will form a good social link with him is Ben Moore from the Easy Allies. Ben?
Hey, I just want to say that the name of the podcast is quite good. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Giant sword.
The Giant Sword.
Yeah, Nick, when he was pitching the idea for that name, or was it you, Taylor?
Yeah, it was me.
He went,
yeah.
Man, I think you're really going to hate this name, man. And he said it. I was just like, dude, you kidding me? It's perfect. And that was ever since then.
Everyone would get it.
That's right.
If
If
you're
you play JRPGs, then you understand where it's coming from. But anyways, Nick, you want to just explain a little bit what this podcast is about and take it from there?
Yes. As kids, we grew up with JRPGs, oddly enough. We grew up with Final Fantasy VII, Tales of Destiny, Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's what started it all.
Oh, yes. And it's the genre that stole our hearts, and it's never left us. And we still talked about it to this day.
Yeah, so I was thinking we could all just give a quick little blurb about how we got into the genre and kind of what makes it our favorite. So I'll kick it off and just say that I think it's like reading a fantastic fiction, except the fact that you get to control the story and use your brain to solve puzzles and set your party up in the best way, like inserts you and immerses you into the story, unlike any other like form of media. It's like that's what always got me in is you're in that world. Mm-hmm. And so kind of the first time I experienced that, I guess it was probably FF7, I knew that this was the path for me.
Yeah.
So, Ben, how about you, man? How'd you get started in JRPGs?
I got started in JRPGs through magazines. I remember going to the grocery store and seeing a video game magazine, and first of all, I was just blown away that people got paid to do this as their job to cover video games. And
right.
I was like, this is amazing. And so I got it, and I remember... and this is why I miss the days of video game magazines, because I remember stumbling upon Final Fantasy VII, and the entire article was gushing, like, you have to play this game, like, you should get a PlayStation for this.
Right.
And just looking at the screenshots and how amazing it was. And I didn't know what, like, JRPGs were as a concept. I wasn't familiar with the genre at all.
Right.
And I did eventually get the game, and then it's like, oh, no, they're about story, they're about worlds. And they're about like exploring a mysterious place and just kind of really falling in love with it immediately. Like to this day, I think the Final Fantasy VII, like the motorcycle scene, that cutscene that plays beforehand.
Yes. Oh, dude, and
the
song that goes with it.
Yeah, I still think that's like the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah,
so.
Totally, man.
Was
go ahead.
Was that magazine the PSM?
It was Electronic Gaming Monthly, but PSM will always be my favorite.
Dude,
one.
I was such a PSM kid, dude. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah,
Chris Slater.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Those are the guys.
Dude, the memory card stickers. I still have my Legend of Dragoon memory card sticker on my PS1 memory
I still
card.
have a couple sheets from some old issues, too.
Nice.
I just love the concept of memory card stickers, by the way.
Yeah.
How, like, old school JRPG is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have, like, Squall and
And,
Quistis on your memory card?
The mascot, the like eye patch wearing smiley face.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
PlayStation lid thing sticker you could get. Yeah.
That's right.
That's iconic, dude.
Yeah, I think didn't you have that on yours?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Then I got the Thrill Kill one.
I remember
the
that
game
one.
that never came out.
Yeah, but that's veering from our JRPG focus, of course. So Taylor, how about you give us a little walk down memory lane?
I mean, we're going to get repetitive here, but
Right.
for me, it was also Final Fantasy VII.
Well, we're all about that age, I guess. So
Yeah, well, one of my mutual friends, our mutual friend Josh, he was really into that stuff. He would buy like a lot of import magazines, and he subscribed to PSM. And I remember going over to his house I was watching him play Final Fantasy VII. I'm like, what is this game? They have like cubes for hands and stuff, and I thought it was just so dumb. And then he had got to the second disc, and he's like, why don't you just borrow disc 1? And then you could just tell me what it's like. I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. And then I started playing, and I'm like, this is like nothing else I've ever played before, because I was never into like the Baldur's Gates or
we
whatever.
We were used to like the Mega Mans and the Super Marios of the world, you know, the Donkey Kongs.
Right. It's just like you go from left to right and you jump on guys, and like that was video games to me, or like a sports game or something. So to be in like a world where you could explore, and like I thought naming your character was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh cool, I can like name all the characters after my friends or whatever.
Name the love interest after that one girl you like in class.
That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. Or I remember one of my favorite playthroughs is I named everybody after WWF wrestlers.
I remember that one. Barrett is like Farouk or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that was fun. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII was where it all started, and then I just was hooked, and then basically anything that had the name Squaresoft on it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's obviously going to be great.
The domino effect got you from there.
Yep, pretty much. But
is everyone's going to be Final Fantasy?
Nick, anything to add there?
Actually, I was totally different. I mean, I grew up, like, you guys came over, and I would watch you guys play Final Fantasy VII, but I actually started with Final Fantasy Tactics.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
When you're the Tails guy, so kind of
I
go
was
into
the Tails.
what
Like,
Tales
I didn't,
of Destiny meant
yeah,
to
I think
you.
the first time I beat Final Fantasy VII was actually probably 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was pretty recent, I remember.
I didn't play that often, or I didn't play it. I just knew everything from you guys. I played Final Fantasy Tactics. We all love that game. We all know that. But Taylor here got my brother Tales of Destiny for his birthday.
Oh, okay.
And I would watch him play that game, and when I decided to play that game, holy crap.
Because the action RPG elements where you actually got to control the combat a little more than a turn-based system like appealed to you way more, I guess, huh?
Yes. I was like I was used to you guys doing turn-based. I'm like, look at this, guys. I could actually control my character.
Yeah, it was like a fighting game. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy.
Big shot over here.
And that, oh, jeez. That game was great. And then after that, it was Grandia.
Oh, yep.
Then Grandia got me into that. Just played all of it. And then I'd always go to your house and we'd always play different, like Legend of Dragoon and Legend of Legaia.
Legend of Dragoon's an interesting one because I remember, Connor, your brother had one of those demo discs, and it had like
a bunch of to PS1 demo discs.
Dude, those were the best. Those were the best.
The gateway drugs of plastic black PS1 discs.
Well, I think that was the best one because it had a demo for Tony Hawk 2 and Legend of Dragoon on it. I had never heard of Legend of Dragoon, and I played the demo. I'm like, this game, like, compared to Final Fantasy, I'm like, this game looks incredible. I have to get this.
It looked like a work of art compared to that.
Well, and then you could, like, transform into, like, the Dragoon armor and stuff like that. I'm like, whoa, I got to get this when this comes out, so...
Well, tell you what, that's enough waxing poetic about the days of yore. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking maybe we could transition to a couple games in this genre that are on the horizon that we're looking forward to. And you could throw out something that's been announced or something that maybe you feel in your gut might be announced sometime soon. So I have one to go, unless one of you guys want to start there, Taylor?
We only toss it to Ben. Ben, I know you're, much like me, a big Persona fan, so...
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Persona, obviously, I'm sure you're excited for. But is that your most anticipated, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, it is not. It can't be my most anticipated of this year.
Yeah,
it's
because
early
reasons.
2017. Yeah, because it got delayed. But yeah, for sure, I'm definitely. I honestly. I know I'm the Persona guy, but I don't think I would be as excited as I am if the trailers hadn't been so convincing. Like. Every single one that they release
just delivered.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it for sure. But other than that, I think one that I just want to throw a quick shout out to that I'm very excited about is Trails of Cold Steel 2.
And Nick's a big fan of the Trails series.
Yeah. The first one was kind of my introduction to the Trails of series. And I really fell in love with it, and I think it's a game that has a lot of great ideas. Not the biggest budget in the world, but like its heart is in the right place.
Mm-hmm. But like that, like ecosystem of the game, like great ideas, low budget, like it's just the framework for something so amazing. Because sometimes it's the passion of those projects that drives them, as opposed to other factors, and so the end product a lot of times is so much better. And then when you get to do a sequel, it can kind of like be fully realized. So Trails of Cold Steel,
it's more
2
like a
should be
continuation.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's actually how I feel about the Shin Megami Tensei series of games as a whole. I feel like they kind of were the sort of JRPG underdogs that not many people knew about, but the people that did were really into them, and just like through word of mouth and just games getting better and better over time, like now SMT is a thing in a way that it wasn't 10 years ago.
Definitely. And it's like as the cult following kind of grows, it branches out a little bit, gains a little bit of mainstream popularity.
Yep.
And then like by that time the grassroots like support for it is so strong that it's like, I don't know, it just really takes off. But I wanted to throw an idea out there, both to you guys and to Ben, of course. So do you think that somebody somewhere right now is working on Ni no Kuni 2?
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's one thing that we were praying for, Taylor, to see.
So it actually is a thing. So we got announced at PSX last year, but they didn't. That was like I don't even know if that was gameplay. It was in engine, but so that's definitely a thing.
Oh, okay, well
but,
then, pardon me.
God, what an idiot! No, but I mean, I would love to see more Ni no Kuni 2. The first one was my favorite PS3 game.
I think we were all expecting a lot of JRPG stuff at E3. But we didn't get the RPGs that we wanted. We got like new ones.
Like I Am Setsuna looks super exciting.
Yeah, I Am Setsuna. One game, I didn't play the first one, but this next one looks incredible. Nier Automata.
Oh my god.
That game looks unbelievable. Like it's like you take the storytelling from Square and then like let Platinum do the combat. Is that sort of how it's working? I don't really know much about it, but
yeah, the thing about the first Nier is the story and the music, I guess I should say, are like best in class, like absolutely fantastic. People should play that game just to experience the story, but the people working on it had a bunch of different ideas for how to make that game play. So it's kind of an action game, it's kind of an RPG, it's kind of bullet hell, it's all of these things, and it didn't come together in the absolute best way, and so it's like, all right, we're going to give it to Platinum. They can make it feel and play really, really well, and we can still have that incredible story and music.
Interesting.
Like that.
Yeah, that's kind of an eclectic mix of feels to try to get into one game to make it play.
When you
like,
said bullet hell, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
I kind
of looked at each other.
Yeah, it's a weird game that I think was reviewed kind of unfairly. I definitely read some reviews where I'm like, wait a minute, like you didn't see this through, or you didn't give this a fair shake, and I think those negative reviews kind of gave it a coloring that people didn't want to give it a chance. But it's cool to see that in the wake of that, there was sort of this cult following that really got behind it and supported it. And I hope Automata is kind of the push that series needs to get a lot of attention.
It's such an awesome idea, though, to like give a team that you know will do an awesome job with like the music and the story, and just be like, just worry about that, do your thing, make it perfect, and then like kind of like outsource it almost to like put them together, so you have a team working on each aspect of the game that's like an expert at that kind of thing. If that's what I can tell is happening here. So that seems pretty like a good formula for success.
Yeah, it's almost reminds me of like the sort of Chrono Trigger thing where you kind of had this like superstar team get together and make things, and it does definitely seem like the coming together of great minds to make something cool. So.
Yeah. I mean,
lucky for us.
to wrap it back around in Ni no Kuni, I felt like that was sort of the same thing, too. It's like, let's bring some guys in from Studio Ghibli, and then Level 5 knows what they're doing as far as gameplay and storytelling and whatnot. So,
except for White Knight.
Let's not talk about White Knight Chronicles. Let's pretend that
White Knight Chronicles happened.
I know, right? Like,
and why does Nick own the strategy guide and copies of every single entry in the series?
What blows my mind is like Level 5 outside of White Knight Chronicles is almost like spotless. Like the Professor Layton games are great. Dark Cloud.
You're a huge Professor Layton guy.
Dude, Professor Layton games are unbelievable. So good.
Rogue Galaxy.
Yeah, gosh. See, Rogue Galaxy.
Dragon Quest.
Yes. Oh, see, like look how many like great
just
games.
Rattling them off.
The 2 Dragon Quest games. So it's weird that they have such a stinker in White Knight Chronicles.
And plus, like, if you just looked at the box art, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's like kind of an intriguing look, Looks like it could be kind of cool, but...
Yeah, you have this like giant robot knight that fights with you and stuff like that, but then like...
I heard giant robot, I was listening.
But like, the rest of the game just has like no soul. Like, the visuals look like a
this isn't the White Knight Chronicles bashing podcast.
I want to get down to this. What was wrong with White Knight Chronicles? Like White Knight Chronicles. Okay, the first one, the combat was super slow, and it was just boring. The second one sped it up, but it was just like
I think
not good.
Visually, it was just so uninteresting. It looked like the most bland PS2 game you'd ever seen. Like, every other level 5 game has some sort of cool art style, but this one is just like, I don't know, plain faces.
So I guess what we're trying to say here is no matter how good Ni no Kuni 2 is, this will still be what we're talking about decades from now.
Well,
When we're old men.
The thing that's funny is if like you talk to people that are super not into JRPGs, you hear a lot of the same complaints where it's like it's too slow, it's boring, it's just a bunch of dialogue. I feel like if you are you've been a JRPG fan for years and years and years, you kind of expect slow starts. You expect it to take a while for them to roll out all the systems.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But if you have a JRPG fan say a JRPG is boring, like that's really indicative of something.
Yeah.
They're used to
Exactly.
that sort of stuff.
For sure. That's a great point there.
You've played it, right, Ben?
Yeah.
Did you
I
play-
I did not finish it.
Yeah, me neither. Did you play multiplayer though?
Once.
I'm sure that's a booming community there.
It was weird because it was like a Dark Cloud-esque multiplayer. You build your own town and then you'd go on quests.
It was
with
like
your
kind
friends.
of Monster Hunter, right? Like, you go off, you fight big creatures or
It
whatever.
was super weird, but like the main game was just like a single-player MMO.
So multiplayer is like totally unrecognizable from the single player.
Yeah, kind of. Because, the thing I didn't like was you're playing as avatars. I think that's what happened. The avatars were just like really messed up, or really like separated from the main story.
Mm-hmm. So, other games we're excited about. Sorry, Ben. Did you get a chance to mention other ones that you were looking forward to?
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like we've been really lucky this year because there's so many good things coming out. I mean, I don't know if it's good or not, but Star Ocean is coming out next week.
Yeah, you just
I'm
pre-ordered
set
that moments ago, right?
Yeah, I was reading some early impressions. Apparently, the street date broke in Europe or something like that. People were saying it's pretty good. So I was on the fence. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll get it. Why not?
Let's see. Are there any other ones? Oh, Monster Hunter. I'm really looking forward to. I was playing the demo a few days ago, and it's real good.
You big Monster Hunter guy, like throughout the series?
I feel like I've been about as big a Monster Hunter guy as I can be. The problem is that I've never had like a consistent group of people to play with. Like, I'll get a bunch of friends and they'll get really excited about Monster Hunter coming out, and then we'll play it like a few times, and then they'll just go off and do other things. And so I really want to get a group of friends and play for like a month or a couple of months or something.
See where you
I've
get
just
to.
never had that. Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Brian, he was really into 3 Ultimate, and he had 2 other guys. I mean, and all 3 of them were just total nuts about it. And they ended up doing some really crazy stuff. I would like watch over the shoulder for some of the boss encounters they would do, and it was like light years beyond anything I was doing in single player. So I feel like you're definitely right, and that's the way to experience it properly.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, cool. I think that's a pretty good, breadth of exciting JRPGs that are coming out. But if you want to take another look into the past, me and Nick decided that it would be only appropriate for our inaugural episode if we each went over our top 3 RPGs of all time.
Yeah, let's start with Taylor.
You're gonna start with me, okay?
Because he's going to pretty much be the same.
Set the tone. Yeah. So I think we sort of talked about this before, what ours would be, but for my number 3 would be Ni no Kuni. I think it has more to do with like the circumstances surrounding the game. I mean, the game is obviously like awesome, but for me it was like Final Fantasy 13 was such a disappointment, and there weren't like a breadth of quality JRPGs on PS3 like there were on PS1 and PS2. So I was just like starving for
Totally
like,
in an RPG wasteland.
Oh, totally. I mean, like, I bought White Knight Chronicles 2. I mean, not to go back to this, but because there was nothing coming out, I'm like, well, nope. So I just had to, hold out for Ni no Kuni, and I couldn't wait, so I even imported the game. And I played with a friend that could speak Japanese, and then I bought it and
That's
played
dedication,
it. Oh, it took a long time to progress in that game because she had to like sit there and translate it as we were playing.
That's a good friend, though.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, she works at Capcom now doing translation, so it must have paid off in some respects. But that game's awesome.
So
I just
Ni no
love
Kuni 3.
Yeah, exactly. So Ni no Kuni was 3. I just loved the world, loved how it looked. Like at the time, I remember the game trailers review. Like I think the words were like, "There are precious few games that look as good as Ni no Kuni," and at the time I was like, "Yes!" Like I can't think of a game like regardless of like fidelity, I'm just talking like pure like aesthetic that looked that pleasing to the eye. Like it was just such a
and cohesive, you know.
Oh, totally, yeah. Like the world, how everything looked, the detail. So Ni no Kuni would be 3. A game that's going to be on all our lists. Number 2 would be Final Fantasy Tactics.
Should leave that off the list because we all know.
No, it has to.
We have to talk about it. We have to discuss.
You can just gloss over it. It's fine.
But just real quick, it's like the customization. It's just like how much crazy stuff. Like, I'm going to give a wizard a sword, or I'm going to have a monk with armor, or whatever. Unlocking all the secret characters. Getting Worker 8, Cloud, and all that good stuff. The story. I mean, I go on and on, but that's. I think of all the Final Fantasies, like this might be a controversial thing to say, but I feel like that holds up best. Over like any of the PS1 games, just because the system is so solid.
Yeah, for sure, and it's like it doesn't rely on like graphical power of any kind, really.
No.
So like the kind of graphical not failings, but just realities of the older Final Fantasies like don't really matter as much in Tactics.
Right. Yeah, it just had a style in it. I think that's the the quality sprites I feel like are kind of timeless. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Calling it now. Final Fantasy Tactics 2. TGS 2016.
If only. Don't set me up for a heartbreak, Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
And then number 1 would be Persona 4. And I would even go more specifically Persona 4 Golden. Like I played 4 on PS2. And then when the Golden version came out, it has like so many more like enhancements, like having a save point before the boss door and like the way you get cards after each battle and stuff like that. It just streamlines it a lot more. Like, this is a weird thing to say, but, like, when the game ended, I genuinely felt sad. Like, I was actually leaving friends, even though these are, like, characters in a piece of software. Like, so they're not real people.
That's how believable and, like, convincing of a world it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
like,
kind of the essence of JRPGs.
Oh, totally. I think it's that charm, like, you connecting with characters and stuff, right? And I think Persona 4, you connect with those characters in a way that, like, rare few games allow you to. And, like I said, like when you're getting on the train to leave and everybody's like, waving goodbye, I'm like, I'm saying goodbye to my friends. This sucks. And like that game was like 60 hours long, and I'm like, I could have played that for another like 60 hours. It was just like the flow, the being able to set your own pace because you're like, I can dungeon crawl or I can hang out with my friends or whatnot, and then also like the looming mystery, like the overall mystery of the game, like keeps pushing you forward. Like, who is the killer, right? That keeps you pushing through like the entire game. So
didn't you know like at the beginning of the game, like you saw this clue and you're like,
now I know because like when I played the Golden version, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But playing the PS2 version, I had no idea. But anyway,
when you first played Persona 4, Ben, did you get one of the bad endings? And you're like, this is how it ends?
I don't think I did. I think I got lucky or something on my first playthrough. I don't think I saw on the PS2 version. I don't think I saw the bad endings.
You were a good boy.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. I got the bad ending, and I was pissed.
Yeah, Taylor was playing it, and he got the bad ending. He's like, "No, this is not how it works. This doesn't end like this."
So let's just say there's a break in the story where you could potentially throw somebody in the TV or not, and you could like talk to them or whatever. And I'm like, screw this guy. I'm going to throw him in the TV. And then I did, and the game just ended. I'm like, no, this can't be how it ends. And then, like, I started over. I'm like, okay, good. The game goes on for, like, 20 more hours.
What a dose, though.
I know. I was so mad. That's, like, how invested I was in that story. So,
well, hallmark of a great game right there, my friend.
Exactly.
Well, let's kick it to Ben. I'm sure this is much awaited for all three of us, what you consider to be your Mount Rushmore of 3 rather than 4.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because so many of them mean a lot to me for different reasons.
Of course.
If I have to just go with favorite, Chrono Trigger like absolutely earns a top 3 spot.
Boom.
Like I don't know if there's. You were talking about how well Final Fantasy Tactics holds up, and I agree. But I would even argue that Chrono Trigger holds up better. Like there are a few games that I can play it every year, and it's still just as good as it was. And just what's so good about it that I think the genre got away from is that game's not very long. Like you can finish it in less than 20 hours, like pretty reasonably. and there's no point in that game where there's any filler, and you get enough of the characters to kind of get a sense of them and to like them, but they don't drone on and on about themselves, and it just like it does the time travel stuff well, and it's interesting, and it's taking you all these crazy places, but it doesn't make it too convoluted that it's difficult to follow. And still the combat system, the techniques and everything, like it's super super fun.
Yeah, one thing real quick that I really love about that game, totally ahead of its time, was the lack of breaks for random battles. You know how there's that's a pitfall of so many RPGs, even going way beyond when that game came out. It's like they figured it out so early.
Yeah, definitely. And I know it's older, much older, but like I was playing Dragon Quest II recently, and it's like I can't. Every 2 feet I'm fighting something. I can't do this.
Yeah.
For sure. Number 2 would be Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, dude, I love you so much.
Yeah. It's weird for me with Final Fantasy IX because as I've gotten older, the combat is super slow. It is definitely not the best Final Fantasy battle system by any stretch, but I think that cast of characters is the best. I really love Zidane as a lead protagonist, and
fantastic
Princess Garnet as a central character. Because what I love about Final Fantasy IX, and Persona 4 is kind of this way as well, is there is an overarching story, and it does matter, and the stakes are high. But really, you can kind of just break that game down into little vignettes of all the characters, and you kind of slowly shift from vignette to vignette, and by the end of it, you know so much more about that character, and you're so much more attached to them, and it does it better than I think any other Final Fantasy game. Like even Final Fantasy VI, which I deeply, deeply love, there are some characters in that game where it's just like, yep, we're gonna join your party, and that's it.
You're like Setzer.
Yeah,
you're just like who's this asshole?
yeah.
Thanks for the airship, I guess. Yeah, I mean, all 100% rock solid points there.
The third one would probably have to be Persona 4, I guess.
My man.
And, you guys already covered a lot of it and why it's so good, but, like, the fact that game makes mundane life so interesting. Like, when I think about Persona 4, I don't think about, like, the Shadow Realm, or I don't think about like the big twists and turns. I think about like the moments where you like Chie and Yukiko make you food and it's really really bad, or like Yosuke crashing his bike or things like that. And I do think that's a problem the genre has, is like overdeveloping characters, and I think that's why you see so many characters with like amnesia, where it's like, oh no, we have to give this character something like crazy. There has to be something crazy about them that makes you intrigued. And Persona 4 doesn't really fall into that trap. It's just like, nope, these are normal high school kids, and we're going to write this well enough that you're going to care about them. So
yeah, Persona has got to be the most like, I mean, while it's very fantastic, like the most human like JRPG series as far as like feeling true to life like that.
Definitely.
Every Persona has like a emotion theme, right? Like the first, like number 4 is like friendship, and then 3 is about death.
And blowing your own brains out to summon your persona.
Yes. Dark.
And then the fifth one is about... what do you think the fifth one's going to be
I think, like, seeking out your passions or something like that. If I can gather the plot, it's like you're trying to steal back people's passions because they're getting dragged down with
dreams.
Like like help. Yeah, maybe dreams. And to sum it up in one word might be a good way to put it.
But then that kind of asks, is it like sleepy good night dreams, or like, you know, your dreams for the future kind of thing?
Yeah, more dreams of the future. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, Nick, you want to go next, or?
I think I'm the most different out of all three of you.
All right. Well, I mean, I've known that for years. But here, I'll go. So I'll go 3, 2, 1. So third, I gotta go. This is one that always riles up all the Chrono Trigger fans, so I apologize in advance, Ben. But I'm going Chrono Cross for number 3.
No, it doesn't rile me up at all. It's a great game.
Okay, for sure. There's been a few where, you know, I've gotten a couple. You really think that Cross is better than Trigger? Oh, but I'm like, man, the graphics, like, especially for the time, like the graphics were, like, quite literally breathtaking, like mouth agape, like, and along with the fidelity of the music for the time too.
Dude, still
Like,
best soundtrack of all time.
The soundtrack has to be like also top 3 of all time, if not the best.
I'm just like generally partial to like that 16-bit sound, and so I like the Chrono Trigger soundtrack better. But I definitely like if someone were to come up to me and they say Chrono Cross is the best soundtrack of any video game ever, I would not look at them like a crazy person. Like, it's amazing.
Right, but I feel like what's great about Trigger and Cross in that respect is it's like 2 separate pedestals of like respect and reverence that RPG fans have for them, and it's I feel like a lot of people. Or most people are good about not like comparing one to the other and having to decide if one is great. You know, like people arguing about athletes or something. No, Kobe's better. No, Jordan's better. It's like, it doesn't matter. You know, they're both fantastic.
And what's great about it is they didn't just make like a 3D version of Trigger, right? Like that game is crazy. Like it's got so many ideas, and it like the way that it's structured is so different from Chrono Trigger. Right. That I totally agree. You can appreciate them individually
because it took kind of like the dimension shifting theme of Trigger and just applied it differently, where you have your world and the away world, where it's kind of like the branching of life. Like if you took one path or if you took another, your life is completely different both ways. And like that's such an awesome theme to base the game around, and they do so many things with it, like going from just talking about fate to love to religion, and just for story, visuals, and sound, as well as gameplay. Really cool element system. Definitely got to give that the top 3 nod.
So many characters.
Oh my god,
and
there's like
the
a
recruitment
bajillion
system.
characters.
Oh god, it was like the precursor to like Radiata Stories, which also had a fantastic recruitment system. But okay, so speeding along, my number 2 has to be Tactics. I'll just gloss over that, but it's one of the most replayable games that I think that's like ever been made, besides maybe like Diablo 2 or Solitaire. so like the job system, I mean, you guys pretty much covered everything. It's fantastic, so I'll kind of leave it there. I guess one thing I'll add to the Tactics thread is like the side quests in that game are very dear to me. Like when either if it's recruiting Cloud from FF7, which is just an awesome nod to that game, or going to Deep Dungeon, where you could get your move find item on and find all the rarest, most awesome pieces of gear. It's just the best side quests. So, speeding along again. My number 1, I mentioned this before the podcast, so maybe you're going to see it coming. These other 2 guys with me, Nick and Taylor, definitely see this coming, but Xenogears has to be the best game ever made, in my humble opinion. But I'm kind of a fanboy for it, but I'll give just a short explanation. So the themes in that game range from kind of what I said about Chrono Cross, but like heavily in like life, death, religion, but there's this big emphasis on like the fact that like we're reborn like every kind of 1,000 years, and like our memories are kind of like from our past lives are kind of lurking within us somewhere that we can't access. And so like through that they talk about God, they talk about it's just such a mature game, like subject matter wise, and then the battle systems are great, where you could either fight in a giant robot or basically do kung fu. And so it's like, could you possibly give me a bigger smorgasbord of things that are awesome? Plus, like a top 10 RPG soundtrack, in my estimation.
Yeah.
And all that together just has to be the greatest JRPG of all time for me.
Do you think it's possible for us to get into it still?
I think you would have to make it a project, just because it is a pretty esoteric game. Like, especially like now RPG players are used to getting like a little more direction, and that game can kind of be a little bit brutal on like where you need to go.
Yeah.
And just the dungeons are really tough, like as far as just navigating them with the random battles. But no, I think you definitely could. It's not too hard or something that's ridiculous.
Playable on Vita?
Yeah, totally.
I think it is.
I have a file on Vita going right now.
You should get that on Vita.
There you go.
But yeah, so that being said, Nick, wrap it up there.
All right.
Take us home.
I'm not going to say Tactics, because that's obviously there.
Taking it off the list?
Taking it off the list.
All right.
I think my number 3 is actually going to be Trails of Cold Steel. That game, so fun. I love how it takes things from like old Trails games and then like mixes up with like Persona, so you actually start like liking the characters that your classmates pretty much.
Yeah.
And even the people around the NPCs, you could make relationships with them and stuff like that. It's not as deep as Persona, but it's still fun to get to know your fellow classmates.
It kind of has that same like human feel to it.
Because like at the beginning, everyone's just boring, like it's really boring.
Yeah.
But you get to know them, they start getting really interesting, and getting to know these people actually helps you with your battle system. Your social link gives you more abilities and stuff like that.
Kind of like Valkyria I almost said Valkyria Profile, but Valkyria Chronicles.
Kind of, yeah, like that.
For sure. Which is also a fantastic game, by the way.
You're warming my heart right now. Like, Trails of Cold Steel is so good. I would actually argue that the battle system in Trails of Cold Steel is much better than the one in Persona 4.
Oh,
probably,
way better.
Deeper, you would say?
I
haven't played Trails.
It's positional based, kind of, where like depending on the moves you do, there's like area of effect, or like if you're not far enough, you're not close enough, you can't hit enemies or whatever.
Is it like Radiant Historia-ish at all?
Kind of, but a little more deeper.
With like the lane system? Yeah, okay, more complex.
Yeah.
I definitely got some Grandia vibes from it.
Yeah, Grandia is
Very
a better
Grandia.
example, yeah.
Just kind of like a meeting point between all these different kind of feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You find their weakness, so you can do link attacks and burst darts and stuff like that. And it's so much fun.
Sounds satisfying.
It is very satisfying, except the ending, because you just want more. Because you're playing the game and you're just like, okay, fine, it's all nice, and then suddenly you're like, what? What?
Get away from Mike there.
Can't wait to continue this, and then bam,
And then it's over.
it's over.
And then it just stops. It doesn't end, it just stops.
It just stops.
I mean, I haven't beat it myself, but everything I've heard indicates that that's what happens.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't.
like when someone who has beat the game is talking to someone who has it, or who just beat the game, it's like, how'd you like the stop? Like, what do you mean? It's like, there's not an ending.
Yeah,
It's
so
just a stop.
I got my sister really into it, and she was at the end, and I was just watching her, and she was like, "This better not end right now. This better not end right now." And then I'm like, "Game over." And she literally just drops the Vita and just starts crying because she's so sad that it's over.
Your sister gets so emotional when she beats games.
I know.
It makes me feel bad for her.
But that game, I can't wait for the sequel. You need to play it.
Hey,
Connor, you
I'm
need to
playing
play
it right now. I'm on the second field study or whatever it's called.
When I beat Breath of Fire 3, I'll get on it.
There you go. Oh, so much fun.
Number 2?
Number 2? I really can't think of number 2 right now.
Tactics.
Okay, number 2 is Tactics.
Okay, you're done. Number 1.
Number 1, Tales of Destiny.
Both
Both Tales of Destiny, the PS1 one and the PS2 one.
the remake.
Did they ever make an English translation for the Tales of Destiny remake?
No, they did not.
So you
I
like
wish I
sat there and
could've played it,
read
man.
translations, or you kind of knew what to do anyway,
So
right?
I knew the story, but I also had a guide to tell me how to play the game and do all the menu stuff and everything.
That's
like
dedication.
Yeah.
And
if
dude-
you're looking at a translation next to the game, good lord.
That. Yeah, Tales of Destiny remake is by far the best Tales game of all time. I'm going to put that
Wow.
out there right now.
And it's the one that's not in English.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
All right, sick.
Yes, this is literally the best. Has the best battle system, has the best characters, and
Great
sprites. Great sprites. Great. I love the 2D battle system compared to the 3D one.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people don't share my opinion on that, but I love that battle system because there's no TP or SP at all. It's all about your combo counter, and each move you have like a set amount, like 10, right? And then each move either costs like 3, 2, 1, 4, and you could just constantly combo in the air or anywhere. You just do crazy ass combos like a fighting game, and it's just
In an RPG
in
framework.
in an RPG,
It's the best.
and everywhere is just constant explosions and skills, and it's just
I remember watching-
you do one mess up, your party's dead.
It's like the antithesis of slow, boring, turn-based combat.
You should just compare it to PS1 Tales of Destiny to PS2, and you see the contrast, and you're like, holy shit. This game is awesome.
Well, I'm glad that I can never enjoy it that like you could.
You can. You played it. You played.
I just need to call up Taylor's translator.
Just
friend.
mod your PS2 and pull up a guide while you're playing it. That's obviously
I
that easy.
legally own Tales of Destiny, right? I did not burn it.
Sounds like a plan.
Is there a fan translation for the
It's
PS2?
It's in the works.
Okay.
For the
Yeah,
last,
for like 8 years.
Yes,
now?
for the last 8 years.
That's how fan translations tend to go, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the Tales of Fantasia the PS1 version just got released like 2 years ago.
Good lord.
And
it's an old game.
Yeah, and I played it, and it was great. I loved it. I like it better than the SNES one.
Well, you are our resident Tales guy.
Yes, I am.
That is true.
I love every single one, except Symphonia.
Well, hot damn.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay, maybe it's just because that's where I started with Tales, but
this should
you don't
good.
like Symphonia?
I do not like Symphonia at all.
Okay.
This is going to be great.
Do you want to know why?
Yeah, hit me.
Okay. So, I grew up with Tales of Destiny 2, which is Tales of Eternia, and Tales of Fantasia. So I played those, and whenever I went on to forums or anything like that, everyone would talk about Tales of Fantasia or Tales of Symphonia. That is it. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, I get why, because that's the only one they know exists.
Yeah.
But if that's all you hear, and I want to find someone who knows as much as I do.
So it has nothing to do with the game.
Nothing to do with the game.
Us right now.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Nothing to do with the game. But
the community
ruined it for me. So I didn't play it until
you wimp.
Wait, okay. Let me continue. I didn't play it until like 4 years ago. When the Tales of Fantasia game came out, right?
Oh,
the translation.
Okay.
I played it on my PSP. I beat that, and I thought that was awesome. And then I realized, hey, I have a GameCube now, and I have Tales of Symphonia. Let me try it out, because I need to at least play this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I played it. Every single time, like, I started realizing that every story beat was ripped straight from Tales of Fantasia.
What, they just like copy and pasted or something?
Yeah, it was like set up very similarly.
Wait, I'm more surprised that you haven't noticed that with other titles in this series.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because it wasn't as...
I like Tales, but...
Yeah, because it wasn't
It's pretty formulaic, man.
Yeah, I know it's formulaic. I know it has to do with the spirit stuff, right? But this one was so obvious that it was just off, like the same scenes played.
Right.
Like someone would get sick, and they'd be like, "Oh, we need to find Unicorn." I'm like, "Okay."
You keep talking about why you don't like this game, and I'm just hearing Quinn Eastwood from Gran Torino right now. Get off my lawn!
And then it's kind of like I'm playing the same game twice in a row. That's what really pissed me off.
So had you not played Tales of Fantasia right before, it might have been a different.
It might have been
story.
a different story. I mean, come on. I played this game for like 70 hours. All right.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Tales of aspect to it.
Yeah.
But I just don't like the game because everyone's hyped for it, and I realized it was just a copy paste of Fantasia.
So political reasons. We can just file it away into that.
I'm sorry. I don't mind. I'm not saying it's a bad game, and you could like it. It really hit
struck a chord
with me. I was looking forward to being proved wrong and wasn't at all.
For sure. Well,
I'm sorry if everyone hates me now, but
no, you're just fine.
Okay. You got to know a lot of JRPG people love Tales of Symphonia.
Oh no, they do. It's like their Final Fantasy VII of the series, right? Their first introduction.
Yeah, like Ben. Like, what do you like about Tales of Symphonia?
I mean, it's gonna be, the answer is gonna be everything you hate, because I just didn't have any experience with Tales before Symphonia, because I feel like that one got a lot of exposure in a way that the other Tales of games hadn't in the West up until that point, and just the oh my god, this is what Tales combat is. This is super exciting and fun. And at the time, I mean, I haven't played Tales of Symphonia in forever, but I liked the characters and the overall story. It had a good pace and flow to it, but it was really the combat that sold me.
Awesome. That's one thing that's always been so rock solid consistent in that series, so it's something you can always count on it for.
I've always wanted to create a video showing the exact same scenes from both games, but that would take too long.
It's like that one video where it plays like a Nickelback song and a Stained song next to each, on top of each other, and they're completely identical. Neither here nor there. So Nick, if we're okay on time,
we are okay on time.
Golden. Okay, cool. Then we just have one more quick little fun topic to.
We have actually two more topics.
Oh, sure. Well, then here, take the helm.
All right. So I wanted this podcast to be like an introduction to new people who are trying to get into JRPGs. So
as well as the salty
as
old
well
veterans.
as well as the veterans. But for the new guys, what do you guys think a good JRPG to start out with is?
Honestly, I would say Pokemon. Because it's like about as straightforward as it gets. It's just like, hey, go, because like there's some exploration, but there's not like a ton of it, right? Like you can go in little buildings or little caves, but it's just like, okay, get to the end of this town, fight the trainers in your way. You can like, you know, give the game your own flavor by what Pokemon you have on your team, and then the turn-based battles are about as JRPG as you get. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And you know, you could really start with any of them. I mean, the last one I played was X and Y, and I really enjoyed that. So, I mean, Sun and Moon comes out, so maybe you could do Sun and Moon or X and Y.
Yeah, some might overlook Pokemon as being a JRPG, but be assured that's exactly what it is.
Oh, it totally is, yeah.
So
that would be my suggestion.
What about you, Ben?
I feel like this is going to be a cop-out, but I think it's especially true in JRPGs, even more so than other games, because they're so long and you spend so much time with the characters and everything like that. You just start with something that looks aesthetically appealing to you. Like, don't think about the combat or like too much about the story. Just like take a look at it, take a look at the art, and if something kind of clicks with you or resonates just a little bit, go from there. Because I feel like so many times I recommend JRPGs to people and they're like, oh, you know, I don't like Tidus, or I don't like Cloud, or like something like that. And I understand that. And so I think you just have to, like, some people swear by the Tales of series just because it's not, like you said, boring turn-based stuff. And so it's hard. Pokemon is a good example for sure, but I feel like Pokemon is so different from like what I consider a classic JRPG.
Yeah, it's kind of like technically is just technically only, you know.
It's like on paper it is, but yeah, I know what you mean. There's no like big story with your character specifically, right? And there's not like a lot of exploration or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it is an RPG that came from Japan, so
that's true.
On that one. But yeah, so you were saying, pardon me.
No, that's about all I have. I guess I'm trying to think of a JRPG that came out in the last few years that would be a go-to starter. I honestly don't think Bravely Default is that bad to start with.
Okay,
yeah.
Just because I feel like it's pretty easy to follow. The characters are likable. I think it's got a good look to it, and it cuts out a lot of the bullshit. Like, you can really tone down the difficulty or the rate of random encounters, and like all of the core tenets of a classic JRPG are there, but you can kind of modify it to your liking.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of customization with the jobs and stuff, so that might be a good one.
It's such a shame that the ending is so bad, though.
Yeah, the ending is really bad.
I had to trudge through that, but I'm like, I need to finish this game. But I totally agree with you. Like, that is like such a great throwback, and like you said, yeah, it like modernizes the turn-based stuff in a way that's really snappy. Like, if this has been an argument between me and Nick for a long time about like turning off the random encounters and stuff like that to just like
these
run
guys
back
have had
and
some serious wars
yeah,
on previous podcasts going on there.
Absolutely. But yeah, I would say that's a great suggestion. Nick looked like he had something. He got excited for a second. He's like, oh yeah, here we go.
Well, it's kind of obvious, or kind of. I would start off if you really want to start off with a JRPG, Trails of Cold Steel.
Okay.
You think it's accessible?
It's super accessible. You don't need to play Trails of the Sky or anything to get it. I mean, you'll get, if you played the Trails of the Sky, you would get some of the, you know, the Easter eggs. But the combat's great. The characters are good. Everything's just everything about it just it's a good way to get you into the style.
And you think it has the visual component that Ben was talking about?
Yeah, I think it does. On the PS3 version, looks way better and doesn't have a frame rate drop that the Vita does. But I would say, it's a good way. Like that and Persona, because Maddie's first was Persona, and she fell.
Now she's like obsessed with
She's
them.
obsessed with it,
Totally.
and then she went to Trails of Cold Steel, and she's obsessed with that. So I think it's a good way to start off one.
Word.
I hate to tell you, Connor, but I don't think Xenogears would be a good starter.
No, if you can't beat that game, you don't deserve the genre of...
Definitely not Final Fantasy Tactics, because you know how Maddie would like.
Yeah, she's
Couldn't,
confused.
she couldn't. She got so confused. She couldn't play.
I think she's just her brain has to get used to the concept of SRPGs, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
So if I were to choose one, I'm kind of thinking I would want it to have like the feel of like a classical JRPG, just to kind of like give the proper historical perspective for someone who's trying to get really into the genre. So I'm thinking I would kind of go a little farther back, maybe something like Lunar 1 or 2.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Just because the music is super peppy, the battle system is simplistic, but like the battles are difficult enough to be really engaging, and the characters and dialogue are both great. It's like a game that gets all kinds of laughs.
I wish
out
I
of you.
thought of that.
And
you can get through it really quick too.
Right, really
Yeah,
poppy,
that game's short. Yeah,
heavy soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's classic. It's like sometimes just like go get the crystal from Dragon Mountain so we can get past this gate to get beyond that.
Right.
So you just go on your quests until you kill the bad guy.
Yeah.
But another one I might throw out is like the first Fire Emblem, because that's like really easy to get into too. The Game Boy Advance one.
Oh, okay.
Just because it really starts you off quite slowly, and like it really leads you along, and then as it gets deeper, it actually gets quite challenging and really complex. So I feel like it's a great transition. Like the learning curve in that game is really smooth, and like the difficulty gets high, but the curve leading up to that difficulty is like really, really perfect, I think. And plus the story's good, so in that sense it kind of has all the elements of a classical JRPG too.
Sure. Yeah, in that sense, I would almost toss a Fire Emblem Awakening as well, because it gets rid of the permadeath stuff.
Definitely.
In case you're like me and hate restarting levels.
I was kicking around saying Awakening, but I wanted to kind of, if someone's going to start with the genre, I want you to have a historical, perspective and have played the 2D, classics.
I can appreciate that. So I think this will be our last segment, but I think this was a fun one that Connor came up with, and that would be, what is a JRPG that you've beaten that you think few or no people have played?
Like a really deep cut, yeah.
Yeah. So, Ben, is there any like...
Well, let's give him some time to think, because this might be a hard one to come up with.
Okay.
But, I mean, if you have something, then by all means you can interject. But yeah, like, what's your favorite obscure RPG title? And I assume like most of these will go back to like the PS1 era, just because that's when obscure RPGs were king.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one that immediately comes to mind is Rhapsody: A Musical Adventure for PS1, because I was in this weird phase where I lived in Korea for a while, and I was just stockpiling PS1 RPGs. So when I came home, I just had this giant mountain of games, and I'm like, this one looks cute and fun. Let me try that. And it's like the total antithesis of what a normal JRPG is. Like, you're the girl and you're rescuing the prince type of thing. And like all your abilities, it's like sort of this weird Grandia battle system where it's all like sort of grid based and very much contingent on how close you are to the enemy. But she does all these magic spells, and she has like these little monsters to help her fight with her. And it's pretty short. I remember that being like less than 15 hours maybe. And I don't know, it was just like a feel good RPG. Like, it's not hard by any means, and it's not like the greatest thing in the world, but it's like, that was a fun little game.
So I thought you were saying you were thinking about picking Rhapsody, and as you continued on, I'm like, oh, he's just picking Rhapsody.
Yeah, because I can't really think of anything else like obscure. Like, anything I think of as obscure, it's like, oh, there was a greatest hits version of that or whatever.
Right. Or like a lot of times it's like a game made by just a really obscure like developer.
Right.
But here, I'll throw mine out.
Okay.
After that, Gem, there was this game I played. It was a PS1 era game, pretty early, and I remember I always thought it was the funniest thing because you bought it in a 2-disc stack. You know those that most of the RPGs that were multiple discs came in.
Yeah.
And then one of the disc compartments had the disc in it, and the other one was completely empty, and it just had the guide. So basically, they were boxing this game in a double stacked jewel case just to make it look like a really long RPG.
That's pretty
when
funny.
In reality, it was only one disc.
That was like Tales of Destiny, same thing.
Yeah. So this is Legend of Legaia.
Yes.
And I don't know if anyone else played that, but it had a battle system that was actually revolutionary. I've never seen anything quite like it, where you punch in directional commands like up, down, right, left, and certain of these commands will be like hidden arts, and then you can get your bar to be really long, so you make like these 10 command strings that chain together like 4 or 5 different combos, and it's just like really innovative for the time when like generally just plain old turn-based attack, magic, and defend type combat was popular.
I remember watching you play that back in the day and being like, this is super cool. And I'm like, can I just try and see if I can figure out moves? I remember just like randomly hitting buttons to see if I can figure them out. But I remember that was like a deep cut like gem that you found that like none of us had heard of before.
Yeah, I always remembered it, but I played it again like 3 years ago. Totally holds up.
Still holds up? Nice.
Played right through from the beginning all the way to the end, 11 every minute. So
nice.
I was kind of surprised about that.
Okay.
Pleased.
Nick, you got something for us?
I do, but let's go to Ben.
Ben, okay.
Ben, do you have one yet?
A couple of popped into my mind, but like
It doesn't
I
have
feel
to
like
be too deep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when you're talking about obscurity with JRPGs, I feel like that there's so many different ways to interpret that. I guess for me, the one that I finished to completion that I think is underappreciated is Etrian Odyssey. I really
haven't
love
played it.
That entire series. And before that, like, I wasn't super big into dungeon crawlers or anything like that, but the way you do the cartography stuff, like making your own map and how those dungeons are constructed and the way they do character progression and classes and stuff. Since you guys are so into Final Fantasy Tactics, I think a lot of the great elements of Tactics are present in something like an Etrian Odyssey.
I played 4 on 3DS, and drawing your map might have been my favorite part of that game. It's like so addicting. It's like my OCD goes crazy. Like, I can just kind of like draw out as I'm exploring and stuff like that. And it's got a really cool art style to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the reason for that is, like, every game you play now, you know, you have a little mini map and you've got like a star flashing and it's like, go here. And so you don't really think about it. You kind of just run in a direction that it's telling you to run. And I feel like by drawing your own map, you're really in the moment. And you're like, no, okay, I've got to look out for traps. I've got to look out for these crazy monsters that can kill me in one hit. And I think it's just like a more engaging way to explore.
Just demands your constant mental presence.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's great, because I feel like a lot of times you can get so away from that, even if you're playing like really skill-based, like fast-paced games that like you would think are more engaging in that way. Like, for example, I was like playing Mighty Number 9 last night, and like when you lose on a stage enough times in a row, eventually like you spawn and then you just like dash and jump off a cliff, like for no reason. You're like, why did I just do that?
Yeah,
it's
because
like
not paying attention.
Yeah, it doesn't, not engaging you. So like, yeah, games that do that are just fantastic.
I think I do have a pretty obscure one that I played. Have any of you heard of Shadow Hearts?
I have. I've always heard good things about it, but I've never played it.
It's a PS2 RPG.
Yeah, so the one that I've played, I feel bad. I need to go back and play the other two as Shadow Hearts Covenant.
It's the second one.
Yeah, the second one. And that game is amazing. Like, absolutely, like one of the best JRPGs I've ever played.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The stamp of approval.
Yeah, I played it recently, too. I had no experience with the series until a couple of years ago. And yeah, the battle system, the characters, the setting, the story, everything.
Holds up great.
Yeah, it really does.
Awesome.
Yeah, the first one it was weird. It was like a Japanese horror setting. So it was like you were like a demon or something, and you were helping this priestess to like. I really don't know what the hell was going on. Actually, it was really weird. But this battle system is really interesting because every move has like it shows this disc, and it has like a line going around and like 3 special areas. So you have to like hit it each time in the special areas to do like
picturing like that arcade game where the light spins around. You gotta punch the button right as it.
Yes, kind of like that.
Okay.
And each like if you miss, you like do less damage or like it doesn't work.
So it's like a skill-based tweak to an otherwise like strategically based battle system.
Yes,
I dig that. Legend of Dragoon kind of had that with the combo tapping.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But their first one was extremely. It was like early days of the PS2, and for some reason, all the early PS2 RPGs were like super simple and like very basic.
Yeah, it was a dark time for RPGs.
Yeah.
You could almost say there was a dark cloud over that time.
Get out!
God damn it!
Get out! But yeah, that was really cool. I have Covenant now that Ben said that it's amazing. I gotta play it. So
you really do. I think. Like, that's one of those games that I have no hesitation recommending. Like sometimes I'll get really into a game and I'll be like, well, okay, but I tend to like these sorts of things. Whereas Shadowheart's Covenant, it's like the only qualification is that you like JRPGs, I think.
All right, I'm in. Hot damn.
After
Glad I asked.
Yep. After I beat Persona 3, it's that.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that concludes our talking points for this pilot episode, right?
Yeah. Ben, do you have any like talking points you want to talk about or anything like that?
No, this is awesome. Man, an entire podcast about JRPGs is heaven. I had a really good time.
We hope that others feel the same way.
Yeah. This is cool.
More. Hopefully, you join us more. Special
Anytime.
guests.
Anytime that I can.
Of
I'm
course.
definitely down to.
Naturally. Well, dude, this is our first guest that we've had, or at least calling in. And so we've learned a lot as far as having a guest on and having someone in our element with us. So thanks for being a part of it, man. I've had a blast. And that being said, this concludes episode 1 of the Giant Sword Podcast. And thanks, everybody, for listening. Please continue to also support the LHG cast and all of our other fine auditorial products.
Yes. And you can also find Ben over at youtube.com/easyallies if you want to hear more about his JRPG goodness.
Listen to his awesome podcast, Frame Trap.
Woo!
But yeah, be sure to review, subscribe, and like on YouTube and iTunes. Thanks, guys, and we'll hope to see you next week.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, Ben.
Yep, thank you.
Well, that's going to do it for this debut episode of the Giant Sword Podcast. We want to thank Ben Moore for coming on as our guest. It was so awesome having you on, talking about JRPGs and other awesome stuff. You can follow Ben at BenMoore035 on Twitter, and you can follow his work on Easy Allies, both on YouTube and Twitch. I believe they stream every weekday. You can follow the show at LHG Podcast. We'll be talking about both the LHG Podcast and Giant Sword Podcast on that account. So if you want info about both, you can definitely follow us there. You can follow me at Taylor's Shelf on Twitter. You can follow Nick at LHG_dim, DYM. And you can follow Connor at Condor Hoops. So this show will be back every week. We'll have it up on iTunes very soon. We'll also be on YouTube. So thank you so much for coming and listening to this debut episode, and we can't wait to give you guys another one next time.